All right, welcome to Counterpoints. My name is Connor. We're hanging out with Endernax tonight. We're just gonna be bullshitting for the next hour and change or so. And he was making fun of my age already, so I can see where this is going. Yes, I'm in my I'm in my early 30s. I'm a boomer millennial. I might as well be fucking dead by now. But soon your time will come, sir. Soon your time will come. You mind giving the folks at home a little intro?
My name is Endernax. I do YouTube and also Twitch, mostly Twitch. I do daily uploads on YouTube, but that's more of a new thing. I lean socially conservative, and I'm probably like center left on economics, maybe with some crazy takes occasionally. But I'm more interested in real politics more than I am any type of you could say being any type of idealism. I guess I'm willing to, and people may find this disgusting, but compromise to get things done, which I think is necessary to move society forward.
Gross.
So a lot of what I talk is practical politics, but it's guided by a desire to make the world a better place, I guess.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate the sense of pragmatism, but it doesn't seem like that's very welcome on the internet sphere. They want purists, they want ideological purists, and like even if you're talking about like tactical steps forward, it can only be to serve a purist ideology, and the purists are still going to attack you. But one of the things that I wanted to say was incredibly interesting. So I think you have an aesthetic, the suit and the flag, and I'm just gonna say it like Chad aesthetic. So what was actually really interesting was watching the Who is Endernax YouTube video, where you kind of went through your personal history and kind of your background and all that kind of stuff, and it was really interesting because if you had told me like, my name's Chad, I'm from Southern California, I was raised in my parents both made $300K a year my entire life. And then I want, like I have the same political positions, but for XYZ reason, I would have believed you either way. So actually, hearing about your childhood and your upbringing and the difficulty and kind of being in a different socioeconomic sphere and also some of your personal challenges was actually really interesting. Do you just kind of want to give people like a 30-second blurb on that?
Yeah, I was born in Southern California. My parents moved after the death of my aunt to rural America. So the first probably, half of my childhood, I lived in the suburbs of California. We lived on a farmhouse for another 7 to 8 years. I've lived in suburbs in the Denver metropolitan area. I've been homeless at different points in my life. Both my parents are special education teachers. My mom became disabled probably when I was around 10 years old. I have 6 siblings. I lived in a multi-generational household, which had 2 families combined in it at one point. That was when we were off at the farmhouse in rural America. My relatives that we lived with were Hispanic, and I had a cousin who was black. She was the only black person in our small 3,000 person town. That's about it. We got lucky. We got a nice house in Denver that was foreclosed on. So that was really as quickly as I could make that.
Yeah, well, and I mean that should just encourage people to go watch the the Who is Endernax video, because that it is like a decent chunk. But I mean, man, it was really informative, and so you kind of said that you have like a tendency towards social conservative politics, but at the same time, what's informing that? Is it the politics of your parents? Is it like your social upbringing? Is it what was required for you to succeed? What kind of forces you to be or what attracts you to being more socially conservative? Because basically, if you had that your story, your story, it would almost be easier to just be like, I'm a Democrat, I'm a progressive, everything. Let's go along with the check boxes on this side because it's going to be easier to format my story to. What actually draws your politics, I guess, right in that sense?
For me, it came from a complete rejection of everything that I had been taught to value as a child. So I came up in a very conservative household. We went to mass every Sunday. We volunteered. We went to church gatherings. We went to CCD, CYO. We only hung out with other Catholic families. We were, we weren't allowed to listen to secular music. We would go to Christian music festivals. It's about as as devout Catholic as you can get nowadays, it seems, because most Catholics are, well, let's say, not practicing their faith accordingly. But I'm still not Catholic.
They're a bunch of heretics, including the Pope.
It's true. It's true. Well, I always joke with my brother who's he's trying to become a priest, and I say, if I ever turn back completely back to Christianity, I'll probably be Orthodox, because if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right. Okay.
Yeah. No, that's actually crazy, studying the history of the church. So for those of you who aren't like historical nerds or whatever, like there was the Great Schism and like the West versus East, and the emperor was like the head of the church in the East, and that became the Orthodox, and that's kind of continued philosophically into the modern era. But then with the Pope, you have all these like scandals and the indulgences and like the history of Protestantism and all that kind of stuff. So there's actually like a lot of philosophical schisms, and I consider myself a cultural Christian, where I still value a lot of the morals and teachings and virtues that I was given as a child. I think there's almost like a evolutionary psychology element to religion that helps people live better lives. But it's very tough for me personally to believe that a Jewish carpenter was like the actual incarnation of God on earth, and that's that's the bridge that I can't jump. It's a little tough for me, but I have a lot of very religious people in my family who are like fundamentally good people, and that's when people like attack religiosity or spiritualism or anything like that, or the search for higher meaning or the belief in God. I have like a reflexive defensive action against that, because these are some of the most like kind, charitable, decent, moral people I've ever met in my entire life. So, I mean, do you identify with any of those statements, or what's kind of...
I would actually almost completely agree with everything you just said. I go a step further, I think, unless you would also describe yourself as... I say that I'm a Christian deist, so I do believe there's a God. I just, I don't think that it's Yahweh. That's all.
Yeah,
and so it's so culturally Christian in that aesthetic, I suppose.
Yeah, and to clarify a term even further, like for those of us who don't pay attention, like correct me if I'm wrong. Theist would be like kind of like dogmatic, like you have a specific religion that you believe in, a specific God that you or believe in, whereas like deist would be like kind of like what do they call that? Like the blind watchmaker, like the force that sets everything in motion.
Right. It's the watchmaker, right? The watchmaker doesn't have to like manually turn the cogs, right? He made the watch and left it.
Yeah. And like I believe a lot of our founding fathers were like that too, like, or at least a decent chunk of them were kind of not as. I forget if it's like Jefferson or something like that. He like wrote like Jesus the Man or something like that. I forget who it was, but basically, and that's where if it was smart enough and interesting enough for them to have those beliefs, then I'm not going to pretend that I'm smarter than the founding fathers. So I'm just an asshole with a camera. Like I don't pretend to have it all figured out. So. But yeah, I mean, so what I noticed, what was interesting, because I caught a little bit of the Vosh debate, which goddamn, like your comedic relief was very much needed and enjoyed. Like threatening to suck Vosh's dick was pretty funny. Like, I was like, I think I was like in a quiet room and I just burst out laughing, and people were like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, so that was pretty solid. But what I was kind of surprised by was. A lot of your takes, at least your YouTube, I would have presumed that you're kind of like trying to coach conservatives, how they can be more relevant politically, how they can kind of get their teeth in politically, how they can kind of move the ball forward. But when you kind of got in there, I like some of the people you were paneling with, but the right wing was, maybe not bringing its best arguments. I guess I could say that tactfully. So you kind of went after them a little bit when it came to like James Knorr and CTV and all that kind of stuff. So how do you view yourself within the dynamic? Like, on a panel, you could punch left or punch right. It seemed like you were punching right more on that show. Like, how do you view your role in the spectrum?
It's hard. So I've been doing panels for like 4 or 5 months now. And the very first panel I ever did, I was just very straightforward with, and this is the only time this has ever happened. So kudos to the right wingers who did this. But we got together beforehand and we were like, okay, so obviously Endernax is a fucking weirdo. So like,
Hey, it
let's make
happens.
sure that like we're not counter signaling each other and Endernax doesn't attack us randomly.
Mm.
And that worked out really well, I think. I mean, basically, whenever I would disagree, I would just not react. I would not say anything. I wouldn't do anything. It got a bit boring after a while. I actually quit panels for probably a month or so because I would show up to these panels and I'm buddies with all the right wingers, and so I would sit there and not say anything on like anything to having to do with economics, especially, or like I have a very cynical view of politicians. So a lot of the times when people will talk like favorably about Republicans, I'll just kind of shit on them inherently. I hate everyone. Like it's woe is me. But you know, it just ends up happening. So I think I was just done, and it didn't help them that we were talking about a lot of things that I couldn't really side with them. Like the very first topic was the closest I got to siding with any of them was when I was backing up Rob Noor's claims about whistleblowers and how they're pressured by investigators and blah blah blah.
Yeah, how fucking weird was that to watch like Vosh and Dedhams, who are progressives, and by the way, I very much look forward to hopefully talking to them again in the future. So I'm not trying to shit on them, but like, how weird was it for them to be like, oh yeah, aggressive policing in this case is totally acceptable, and it's like, bro, like, let's pick a lane. Let's pick a lane and let's fucking stick with it. Because you know goddamn well if it was like a different investigation in a different setting or something like that, and a cop like suggested to a witness or a victim or a complainant, and they were like, "Are you sure that's what you saw? Are you sure you didn't see something else?" Like, and that's where I was jealous of your ability to be on the panel and kind of but I'm sure we'll get there in the future. But the that for me, from a law enforcement background, basically like, in investigation, you can be aggressive and you can be an asshole and all that kind of shit, and there's no laws against it. But also, like, there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat, and the way that I conducted police investigations is basically just acting like an idiot. Like acting like an idiot and pretending to be their friend and just asking them open-ended questions and letting them explain themselves until they hung themselves. So there's a lot of ways to do it.
If you, for anybody who wants to see it, just go like on YouTube. You can go right now. You can go find like interrogations, and they're just all over YouTube. And every single time, the ones that are the most like where people just walk themselves into admitting that they've done something wrong is whenever the cop just goes in there and acts like their friend.
Yeah,
that's all they have to do.
Yeah, and it's like it's not even a question of like necessarily lying. You just like ask open-ended questions. Your body language isn't aggressive. Your words aren't aggressive. You're like, hey bud, like this is what I heard. What's going on? What actually happened? Can you explain it to me? And I mean, like seriously, if you don't be a dick like up front, most of the time people want to make their case. They want to make their side. They want to prove it to you. And then that's kind of the thing where like, they will lie, or they won't lie, and they'll kind of articulate all of the things that you need to investigate. So that's where like, I'm not there. I'm not the cops. I'm not a part of that precinct. Like I didn't watch the 3-hour interview. I don't have time for that shit. So like, I don't know what the fuck happened. But at the same time, watching lefties kind of trip over themselves to defend law enforcement was super interesting. Yeah. I was like, oh man.
Like you're supposed to have a blatant distrust of all institutions. Now it's chill.
Yeah. They're on my side. Well, and that brings me to another point that I wanted to ask you just off of the last comment. You were saying that like rhetorically you got with some of your right-wing bros beforehand, and then you were kind of like, what's going to be the best position for us to win the debate and all that kind of stuff. And I find that as I pursue this, I don't know what you want to call it, this hobby. That there's a few ways that you can like be in this world, and it's like you can articulate what you think as best you can, or you can be like a rhetorician or like a political advocate where you're trying to advance a certain set of goals and agenda to an audience. So like how do you perceive the way that you communicate? Are you a rhetorician and an advocate?
I'm a performer. I'm a rhetorician. Like that's just. Yeah. I mean, I can sit down and have a discussion. Usually I'm really upfront with people. So if they're like, hey, do you want to have a debate? I say, okay. This is how I view debates. I think debates are literally about like gotcha moments, entertainment, coming off as funny, coming off as witty, whatever you want to do during a debate to grab the audience's attention, especially when it's not an academic debate, much to the chagrin of many people that I know. They're like, oh my goodness, Endernax, you're tainting the sacred art of debate. It's like, no, not really. Like, if you want to have a discussion with me about the like ideas and talk back and forth about why I think the way that I think and why you think the way that you think. Okay, let's do that. That's called a discussion, not a debate. I'm not trying to convince you. You're not trying to convince me. We're just trying to see where we're coming from. And a debate is more about pandering to the audience and making them love you so that they think your ideas are good. No offense to any of the academic debaters out there who are in the high school debate teams.
Yeah, that was actually like the really fun thing, because I've been with RGR and what was it, Pisco and all that kind of stuff, and they're both lawyers in training. So they're both like, preparing to articulate arguments that they probably do believe in or don't believe in a legal setting and like all that kind of stuff. And what was it, like they keep hitting me with like random fallacies, and I'm not saying they're wrong, but they're like, oh well that's begging the question, or what's the weight of evidence in this conversation or something like that. And I'm like, aren't we like 8 assholes with webcams? Like, aren't we just like throwing shit at the wall in order to see what sticks? And like I'm not a rhetorician. Like, I'm not trying to play to aesthetics or play to a base or a faction or anything like that. And as a matter of fact, I don't think I ever can. Because I don't think I can take on a persona, or I can't really take on a persona, and I can't really take on like an agenda and then advocate it for it no matter what, even like if I get new information. Like, I'm just not capable of like advocating for something after I no longer believe in it.
I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. But like I genuinely think that a lot, especially on the online space, people sometimes have this divinity, I guess you could say, to the debate. And I'm just looking at them like, have you ever seen like Destiny or Vosh or like any of these people who are like the debate pros go at it? Like, there's it's not the substance of the argument, guys. This isn't
Cambridge rules, motherfucker.
No.
Although, like, sometimes I wish it was, because like, we'll tangent, we'll beach ball, we'll jump onto different stuff. But actually, like, that's what I prefer. Like, I prefer just going where the conversation leads you. Like, hey, this is interesting information. I'm not proving you wrong or proving you right, but this is shit that should help you contextualize your world a little bit. Like, that's the kind of thing that's interesting to me. But and that was one of my struggles with like an earlier debate, and like even these debates or whatever, is like, I'm not trying to fucking win. Like, I don't have a political side. Like, I don't have like an audience or like anybody that I'm trying to advocate for. There's not a set of like policy agendas, which I also feel like an asshole for, because I almost feel like it's actually tougher when you have an agenda. And like, I think that's one of the things that I want to give props to maybe like Destiny or Vosh for, is like trying to root their perspectives in truth, but also always pushing in an agenda. And when I found like inconsistencies in their truth, I think I didn't even realize that they were rhetoricians and not necessarily just like, impartial truth seekers while I was listening to them. But I also think that like leaves them open for potential attack, where if there's any hypocrisy or if there's any pulled punches, then that leaves them open for like rhetorical attack.
It was like there's a clip on Voss's channel to call him out specifically, not purposefully, but there was he made fun of like 2 videos prior all these crazy right wing conspiracy theorists who were like trying to get their base to get violent and go buy guns and get ready for the revolution. Yeah. And then like not even 2 videos later, he's like, and you guys better prep for Amy Coney Barrett's appointment. Buy guns and start unionizing. I'm like, dude, you're doing the same thing.
These people are lunatics. Like, and then like 30 seconds later, it's like, hey guys, ACB is gonna basically kibosh abortion day one. Like, it's like,
she's gonna go in there and literally put all women in bondage. Like, they're never free again. Okay.
Well, and that was actually I can't remember if it was something you said or if it was just something that I heard in a debate recently, but they were like, the way to like get change or progress is through conflict, and then like conflict, you gin up your base, and then you build political momentum, and then you send them after a political goal, and then like it's kind of like waves crashing into each other. It's like, what do you want to achieve? And that's where, like, just to admit that I'm an asshole or whatever, like, so I'm a white middle class guy. I have a corporate job. Like, I pay my bills. Like, there's not a whole lot of political advocacy that can really like help me out. Like maybe student loan forgiveness or universal health care would help me. But it's not something that I'm really passionate about, because I can get by at the end of the day, whereas a lot of people who are fucked over don't have that luxury. So like political advocacy actually directly impacts their lives. So it makes sense that they would be more passionate about it. But I also think that like my role isn't to be an advocate. It's more to be like, let me help you put more information, more light, more context, more, like just perspective onto the world, because it seems like a lot of people just want to tell you what you want to hear, and that's frustrating for me, because I think there's a lot of people who are just looking to hear what they want to hear, rather than like looking for a new perspective.
And this is something I've completely, like, I fully admit that I've struggled with this. I didn't realize that I struggled with it until, I mean, I was in my 20s, so probably 21. And I'm almost 24 now, but like that's not that long. But that realization, those 3 years, probably me becoming politically active when I was 16 until I was 21, those years were defined by me seeking out content that would reaffirm things I already thought. Like if I wanted to believe that like the United States was evil and that religion was evil, that was what I watched, right? It was, I was resentful. Something inside of me was telling me that I needed to think that because of the resentment I felt for my parents, or the resentment I felt for the United States government because I felt slighted in some way, shape, or form. And I think that's actually pretty hard for people to realize, like that they're not actually guiding. They think like, oh, look, I'm becoming more informed. It's more like you already have your biases. You have your mind made up. You're not going to change your opinion. You're literally just consuming content to tell you what you want to hear, and it's rough.
Well, and that was actually something that I realized. It probably, like, I would say maybe like 15 to 17 or 18. Like I was just participating in online political spaces that were predominantly right wing, and all it was like for 3 years was like SJW cringe. Like that's all it was. It was just, look at these lefties, they're obnoxious, like they hate white people, like they're just pieces of shit, and they're even the things they want to achieve are ridiculous, and like progressivism has gone off the rails, leftism has gone off the rails, and mass immigration is going to fuck up society, and like multiculturalism is going to fuck up society. And I was just like jamming that shit in my brain like all day long for probably 3 years. And then actually what was interesting, two things happened probably over the course of like 2 years, so like probably 18 to 20. So one, like Counterpoints came on the scene and started making steel men of like progressive politics and lefty arguments. And even though I disagreed, like there were still points that I disagreed on, I was like, holy shit, like there's logic behind some of this. I have to start paying attention to my political opponents. And then the other thing that happened was, I think up until Charlottesville, the American nationalists, like the Nick Fuentes crew, the Wingnuts, like Richard Spencer, the Libertarian Boogaloo Boys, and the Proud Boys, and all that kind of stuff, they were all kind of traveling in the same direction of like anti-SJW cringe. But then once Charlottesville happened, and I think a year and a half later, like Nick Fuentes launched the Groyper War, basically like targeting like Conservative Inc. or whatever. I was like, oh shit, like I'm not with that. Like I'm not with that. Like I'm not, like I have brown friends, black friends, Hispanic friends, Asian friends. Like I do believe in civic nationalism. Like I do think that like Americanism is more than skin deep. I do think that like capitalism and the free market is, important, but like, maybe there should be some mods in order to help people out. And I know Nick Fuentes particularly is more like economically interventionist, but to say that there's not like a racial component, or that the racial component isn't primary, is kind of like, I think absurd at this point, based off of his rhetoric. So that was kind of where I was like, fuck, I'm not with that. Now what? And that's kind of what opened my eyes to studying more people than just the things that I wanted to consume.
I think for me, the turning point was probably, goodness, I was like a Bernie bro, and it wasn't until, crazily enough, I dropped out of ROTC. So I was in ROTC in college, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing with my life. I had no idea what direction I wanted to go. And there was this weird Canadian dude on YouTube who I watched a lot of content from. I think his name was like Borden D. Peter Ton or something. But anyways,
is it Jordan Peterson?
He talked a lot about crabs and stuff.
Dude, you better say his name on my channel. I am still a fan.
Yeah.
I am still a fan. I still think he has worthwhile things to say.
The guy's had a rough,
Hey, listen, ignore the all meat diet and the snorting COVID-19 intentionally and going to weird Russian hospitals and having a daughter who advocates for a meat diet. And like, you're still golden. 90% of that is gold.
His daughter seems to recently be, maybe the literal embodiment of chaos, but I don't know.
Well, but okay, but this is like shamans and like tribal societies. Like you expect them to like eat poop and like be mild schizophrenics. Like like they're like they'll tell you some real shit for you to live your life, but you probably don't want to live their life because they're like fucking trapped in the nether realm. Like you don't want to.
That's true.
You don't want to take on their perspective because you'll lose your fucking mind. You just need to take what's useful and use it for you.
That's fair.
Yeah. That's like never meet your heroes. Like Matt Stone and Trey Parker. Like unironically through my younger years were like some of my icons. But you watch them in interviews and you're like, oh, these guys aren't geniuses, or like, but I mean, in a way they are, but they're not. They're human. They're
really
human.
weirdly enough. I kind of felt like because I had been watching Vosh for I don't know, a year and a half and Destiny for longer, they kind of had that sort of aura of, this is almost someone I look up to, or this is like a group of people who are clearly much smarter than me because of the screen separating me from them.
Yeah.
They were the ones telling me the information. So clearly they were the ones ordained. And I could not agree more with that sentiment. Like, it's just having the wool taken from my eyes of like, oh no, everyone in life sucks, basically. Like, everyone you thought was smart, they're all a dumbass in their own way. Everyone is a dumbass. And that's like the biggest takeaway I've ever had from
I try to tell that people straight up. I try to tell them that before anything. I'm like, listen, I have XYZ down. I am really confident in all of this, but I have been tripping over my dick for 2 decades now, and as smart as I think I am, I also know I'm an idiot. So don't like put me like on a pedestal or anything like that.
Please
like I will give you good info, but I will also fuck your shit up. Oh man, that's awesome. Well, and that's actually what I kind of realized too, because getting into this community was relatively quick for me, because like I did I did some content. I met a few really interesting people like Faraday, and Faraday introduced me to Mike from PA, and that debate was a fucking shit show. It was brutal. Like I said, I sent you that Discord message where I was like, look out.
Yeah, I cannot stand him. The guy is a dishonest jerk. That's all I'll say.
Well, and that was my kind of thing where like I've avoided the temptation of rhetoricians, because I think that like you were saying, where debates are about making meme moments and funny moments and being charming and attractive and throwing some good punches that can get clipped and all that kind of shit. I think when you obsessively focus on that, it actually becomes incredibly toxic, and that's what will then get clipped out. So just to use an example, like Mike from PA has like a 2-minute segment calling Destiny an idiot for thinking Biden was going to win. That was played on repeat, election night. Nick Fuentes has like a 3-minute clip of him fucking freaking out and saying that Trump's going to win like all fucking like 48 states. I know you're playing to a base, you're being rhetorically funny, you're getting the meme moments and all that kind of stuff, but like you look like an asshole. So like it's true. That's the danger. That's the double-edged sword of playing to somebody's perspective.
And then you attach yourself to this like the reality that you build for yourself. And once you've attached yourself, it's almost impossible not to keep yourself linked to that identity. You really don't have any room for growth or changing your opinion or realizing that you're wrong.
Sometimes, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, if you admit you're wrong, your livelihood is literally on the line. So
that was one of the things that sometimes makes me literally feel bad for Nick Fuentes, because it's like he can't escape.
He's done.
He's built his own gilded cage, and like he's the kind of person, like I'm sure he has like the family connections where he could dip out for like 5 years and become like a real estate agent, and like like the suburbs of Chicago, and like his internet history will eventually disappear, maybe change his last name or some shit. Like he'll be all right no matter what.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like if he ever tries to move his base from like this doomer perspective that, you know, like the Jews are manipulating society, mass immigration is going to destroy the white race, you're being propagandized to not have kids. You know, you're going to be eating bugs, and like, you know, your kid's going to be hooked up to like an opium masturbation machine, and like religion's going to be purged from the earth. Like there's grains of truth to this, but he has such a doomer prophetic version of like near apocalyptic proportions that if he ever changes a fucking iota or like introduces a minor amount of nuance, he's going to get fucking crucified by his own crowd.
I always thought, you know, Nick Fuentes was an entertaining guy, and I would watch his content. Now, I agree. I disagreed with a lot of what he said, but I found like his rhetoric and the way he talked and the way he styled himself to be, you know, pretty appealing to me. And then, but it was all of the like, what are you talking about, my guy? Like, I get it. Yeah, libertarian conservatives kind of suck. They're kind of awful at conserving things. Yes, things have degraded, but the reason, like, all of your diagnoses are so base level, and it's like you just read, you took /poll and you just refined it a bit, and that became your ideology. And it's really sad to see all these young people who are obsessed with them. I have a couple, I guess, ex-groypers in my community, and the first question they asked me was like, so like, wait, you don't believe that like the Jews control everything? I'm like, no, I don't. Like, no, I don't sit here every day and think to myself, like, oh wow, yeah, like I feel bad because it's, instead of taking responsibility, right, and becoming a better person and working to make yourself, your family, the world a better place in that order, you just get to live in fantasy land where everything you'll ever try to do is subverted by them, right?
Well, wait for the apocalypse. You know, don't worry about improving your family or finding your wife, or you can't find your wife because the Jews have turned her into a whore.
I tell them this. I say, go to a church. Go to a conservative church. I'm not. You're lying to yourself.
They're a bunch of heretics, and they don't follow the true faith. So I can't go to church because they're spreading this like pussy weak Jesus message. So I can't go there.
I'm sorry we don't have an indoctrination machine that can produce you your perfect trad wife. I'm so sorry.
Well, dude, and that's actually one of the things that's really frustrating for me, because I have a few ex-gropers in one of my like social media groups, and like honestly, like they're just like, you know, I lost my significant other, not to death, but just like breakup. You know, I can't really find another one. She already wasn't like the most moral person. I'm really black-pilled about what's going on. I can't find my wife. And that's like that's like really sad for me, because I'm just thinking, like, you know, the more you talk about how the Jews have turned women into whores, and like how you never masturbate because that's a sin and that's not based, and like turns out that the Mexicans in La Raza are here to steal your fucking jobs, and like all that kind of, like, nobody's gonna want to be around you. Nobody's gonna want to be around you. Like no.
It turns out there's probably some castizo cuties on, you know, in the southern parts of this country who are pretty trad cat who would probably marry you, but because you hate the Mexicans now, you're never gonna get one. So.
Dude, I think you made this point, and it's something that I've said a couple of times now, and I think it's a killer. I think it's a kill shot. Like, if the right wing ever got on board with slightly more economically progressive issues and started recruiting like Hispanic immigrants instead of viewing them as like some kind of like existential enemy, like it would just be like a sweep. It would just be like a red sweep. Like
you want to talk about a red California? That's how you actually do it.
Yeah.
You don't do it with the same base you've been trying to appeal to since the Reagan era. It doesn't exist in California anymore.
Well, and here's something to say too. Like I know Tucker Carlson's a Nazi, Stone Toss is a Nazi. I get it. All right, but.
Everyone who ideologically disagrees with me is a Nazi, including Endernax.
Including both of us right now.
Right.
But shouldn't the health of families be important in society, regardless of racial makeup? Shouldn't the next generation's health and well-being and education and opportunity be something that the economy should focus on? And this is something that, like, I get really frustrated with libertarian right on. Like even the last conversation was extremely frustrating, because I think libertarian right and libertarian right perspectives, conservative ink, so to speak, it's been co-opted by very rich people to convince working class people that basically their sole responsibility in this life is to eliminate income tax, and all of the world's problems will disappear. And that's just like, it doesn't bear fruit at all.
It's a rejection of every society that has existed since the beginning of our ability to form groups
and,
in general,
and communally contribute to the health and well-being of everybody.
Yes, because as it turns out, the healthiest and strongest societies are the ones that have the healthiest and strongest family units. Now, those look different depending on where you're going, but of course, we already know that the most important, factor to a kid's life and to whether or not they're going to be successful or do great things in their life is their family. It's their initial upbringing. It's like whether or not their parents are there, especially during their early formation period. Like, what is even the point of having like a group of people together whatsoever if we're all just individual units who are like economic inputs into a machine? If that's like the end goal, like what? Why would anybody ever want that? What a joke of a thing to sell to people.
Well, and I think that's what the propaganda is designed to do, is to make you feel like an individual unit. You're only responsible for yourself. You're only responsible for your economic well-being. As long as you're doing okay, nobody else really matters. You can, but like, and if the federal government would just get off your back and stop taxing you at between 15 and 30%, then you could buy that fucking Ski-Doo and fucking go to the lake every single weekend, and you could fucking buy that Barrett 50 cal and shoot bullets that are fucking $2, like $5 a round or something like that, because you're getting taxed at 30%. And like that's what drives me fucking nuts. It's like, if everybody's taxes were slashed, we had like a very small government to the point that everybody's like basically paying almost nothing in taxes, and then we just live in this like Ancapistan or whatever. You're going to be affected by broken families. You're going to be affected by drug addicts. You're going to be affected by homeless people. You're going to be affected by broken schools and broken families. Like, those people are going to live around you. So to act like, we just get the federal government out of the way and then everything's going to fall into place is fucking nuts. Like, it really bugs me. And I was also raised on the propaganda. So the same way that you were like hostile to like religion because you were raised in it, that's the way I feel about libertarianism now, where it's like, it's a very simple worldview, and it's kind of beautiful when you look at it ideologically, but as soon as it hits material reality, it's like it just falls fucking apart. And that's like do you know who Dave Smith is?
I'm sorry?
I'll let you tangent, but do you know who Dave Smith is?
I don't know. No.
He's one of the most popular YouTubers, and he's older than me. He's got to be like in his late 30s or early 40s. And the fact that like he's in his early 40s and he's still following the same belief that he has since he's 17 bugs the fuck out of me. But anyways, sorry, tangent.
Well, that's the evidence of an ideologue, right? It would be like watching Richard Wolff. Like, that guy's never changed his opinion on anything since he hit college.
Yeah,
he's been a Marxist like his entire life. That's just how things are going to be. There's no new information that could ever change the way that person thinks. Yeah. But there's libertarian ideology falls apart when faced with any problem that is even remotely difficult to solve. It's like, oh, well, like what happens if, like, I don't know, China wants to take over the entire world? Oh, well, it turns out that libertarianism doesn't really work well in this system.
No. They'll become libertarian too, because libertarianism will be so appealing that they'll just convert, to libertarianism.
Right,
yeah.
All the Chinese will rise up against their overlords and libertarianism.
Dude, that literally, and this was an argument that I might be having later in the week. We'll see. But like, one of my largest frustrations was like, so there's globalists, like unironic globalists. And I'm not trying to shit on the concept of we need to have like international problems solved by international concerns, or that immigration should be a little bit loose so people can live where they want to live. Like that, none of that fucking bugs me. Like I'm a civic nationalist. But at the same time, to just say, oh, we can just open up the borders and like liberal secular democracy is going to win.
Yeah.
Really?
Totally.
Really?
Yeah, no, that's a great idea.
You have confidence in that? You have confidence in liberal secular democracy trumping theocracy and trumping authoritarian communism. We're just going to win, just through virtue of the power of our ideas. What?
Don't you know, like, people magically logic themselves despite culture, despite religion, despite geographical differences in the way that they think?
No. Our ideas are so good, they're irrefutable. Everyone will believe them automatically because they're so self-evident.
So if you put somebody like, not to like call him out, but like he's some of his viewpoints I just find hilarious are batshit, which is like as neoliberal as you can get, right? And he decided like immigration policy. He would open the borders tomorrow. He absolutely would. He would think that, wow, I'm such a saint. I'm doing the Lord's work. No, I'm sorry. All right, hey, when the fascists start rising up and killing all the brown people, like this is actually what's going to happen. You know, left-wing people often complain about white supremacy and Nazis and reactionaries and people who get radicalized into these things. It's like, why do you think that happened? Do you think like a perfectly normal person who's living a great life ends up becoming an extremist?
It's only material conditions. It's only material conditions. It's just because they're poor. It's not because religion has anything to do with their ideology. It's not because their belief about governments have anything to do with their ideology. It's not because their belief about economics have to do with anything with their ideology or what they perceive. It's just because they're poor and the rich people are stealing money from them. So we need to ban the owner class. And once the ownership class is banned and we've shot all the landlords, then at that point we will live in utopia and everybody will agree that anarcho-communism is the correct way to go.
True.
And the Vanguard Party will give up its power and give it back to the people, and we'll all live on communal farms, and we'll all be YouTubers, and automation and fusion power is just going to solve all of the world's problems. You won't even have to work, by the way. You'll have an 8-hour work week because you feel like it, and all you'll be responsible for is YouTubing, jerking off, and maintaining your shitty apartment and smoking weed. It's going to be awesome. Sign up for the revolution now.
Something tells me those people will become extremists too, and this is ultimately where the social conservative aspect is, because exactly. Well, they'll become extremists in the way that they didn't think that they would. Everyone's just going to be this like what is the way that I describe it on stream? These hedonistic pleasure seekers. They're just going to walk around, and the only thing that they'll live for is the content they receive on their computer, the pornography they jerk off to, and the drugs that they do every day. That's not what's going to happen. So those people are going to go insane. They're going to crack. They're going to start turning to, oh my God. They're going to start going to /pol, and they're going to start becoming Nazis because their lives are not being fulfilled. It turns out that just your job and like all of your income, etc. These things don't inherently.
No, you won't even have to work though, because automation is just going to do everything for you. So you can just sit in your apartment and become an artist and pursue your own life's passion. Dude, I understand that I actually have a decent lefty base, so they're probably not happy that they're very shitting on this version of reality. But like I was never happy when I was pursuing what was pleasurable. I was never happy. Drinking, fornication, weed, all that kind of stuff. It was interesting and it was pleasurable, and I'm happy that I had those experiences, but I was never satisfied. I didn't have anything deep or like a sense of contentment or anything like that. And the senses of satisfaction and contentment, and like maybe I'm just a traditional person, they came from doing interesting, deep, and dark and fucked up things spiritually, committing myself to endeavors that involved a lot of personal sacrifice, and then having those things become fruitful through personal sacrifice. And so, like, I'm going to go back to our lobster man, Peter Jordanson, about life and the purpose of life, which is basically like, life is suffering, pick up your cross and bear it. And a lot of things suck ass, but if you sacrifice for good things and orient your life towards the good and away from the bad, you can really achieve some shit that'll make you happy. And like that seems like basic shit. One of the things that piss me off most about lefties is like everything that I just said, and they're like, oh yeah, obviously. I'm sorry.
It's like, okay, well, if we just remove like the economic paradigm and everyone lives like these existences that are inherently pleasure focused, then things will be good. It's like, no, you're like the way that a lot of these people would orient. Like if they were the ultimate dictator and they could just snap of their fingers change the world, drugs would be legalized and the use would probably be normalized. People would do a lot of drugs. They would, not have to work for anything. Obviously, all of their material needs would be given to them, and they would be given time to do whatever they wanted. Well, the problem is, especially with men, when you give them a lot of spare time to do things and nothing to aim at or nothing to grow towards, we engage in pretty self-destructive behavior.
That's biologically essentialist, and I am disgusted that you would insinuate such a thing.
Well, I'm sorry, but
what?
Oh, listen, men commit 90% of the violent crime, guys.
No, it's cultural. It's toxic masculinity. It's patriarchy.
Right. This is not true in every society on the entire planet, including in like.
It's nothing to do with endocrinology. Nothing to do with testosterone. It's just our toxic social structures, and it has nothing to do with the fact that we created toxic social structures out of our endocrinological and biological basis. We didn't create these things because of biology. We just formed them because we felt like it, and then we're the victims of it now, and we should just change it because, it's arbitrary, and if we just fix it, then men will stop committing 90% of crime.
Well, yeah.
Just fix the material conditions. Don't address ideology, satisfaction, spiritualism, religion, morality, truth, justice, anything.
They're big brain. But they're big brain atheists. So don't you know that like God is a fairy tale in the sky, and you should just get over it?
And it's cringe.
Religion.
It's cringe. It's cringe to be worried about death, mortality, or morality. It's actually cringe. So
the only thing that
worry about
matters is whether or not there's an equitable distribution of the resources. So.
Oh my God. And like, listen,
I just can't fathom like thinking like this, because I'm just thinking of, it's like whenever I hear the argument that, women can't have children in the United States because they're too poor. So what kind of life are you giving to that child? I'm like, there is a mom in the Democratic People's Republic of the Congo who's had 7 kids. Is living probably the most fulfilled life, like more fulfilled than you will ever live your life. And like half her kids are fucking dead, and they live in a war zone basically.
Having kids is cringe, bro. Having kids is cringe. All right. Hold on.
I'm not.
I gotta bring it back, because I feel like all we're gonna do is we're just gonna piss off everybody. Okay, let me bring it back.
Wait, I take it all back.
No. Don't. I'm not taking anything back.
We just give people more money.
No.
$100 minimum wage. $100 minimum wage. Come on, guys.
All right. So I'm not a rhetorician. I am just saying what's coming out in my brain. And I do understand that a lot of lefties who are watching this probably didn't make it through the past 5-minute segment because they felt like they were being strawmanned or weak-manned argument, by us for the past 5 to 10 minutes. I understand that. And if you're still here, I appreciate you for fucking, bracing your balls and getting to this moment. But, or your ovaries, whatever, biological thing you have down there. So this is my point. We just said all this shit, and some people might think of that as a straw man or a weak man argument. But this is the vibe that I'm getting from lefties, from progressives, from anti-work communists, from people who say that the family doesn't matter, Western morality is fucked up and irredeemable, the United States is fucked up and irredeemable, there's no good parts to what we did, we're a unique evil on the world stage, capitalism has failed, basically all we need to do is solve material conditions. So if you and we can get back into the convo, but basically like if you as a listener feel insulted that I have just like weak-manned or straw-manned you, this is what I'm getting from you. This is me feeding back your perspectives to you based off of the leaders of your movement that I am listening to. This is what I'm getting from Vosh. This is what I'm getting from lefties on Twitter. So what I'm really saying is this is your fault, not my fault.
Well, it'd be one thing if we were the typical rightoids who are watching the SJW cringe compilations or watching people like Steven Crowder. But guys, we're not. This is as reasonable as you can get. Yeah. No offense to any of the other right-wing people, but like I can put up with a lot of crap. And it wasn't until, I was called a patriarchal sexist pig hell-bent on controlling women's bodies for saying that I thought we should have free birth control and sex ed, but that I was pro-life, that it didn't really dawn on me until that point that these people were just vehemently and inherently against me as a person. And it didn't matter if there was reasons for the reasons that I felt or said the things that I did.
But I'll still...
I would be condemned. I would be condemned. And that this is like... the general feels that I got off of the left-wing movement, or like especially the online left, were pretty valid. Like that they turned out to be right. So now that being said, I've met a lot of good left-wingers who are really nice people. So not all left.
Hashtag not all.
Not all.
Yeah, but this is where I'll steal, man. Where like I'm, as somebody who's not a rhetorician and somebody who is interested in making the world a better place. I think there is an incredible amount of like productive area. So for instance, like, dude, I was talking to some conservatives the other day, and they're like, literally, I'm not going to imitate a Southern accent, but basically like, I believe in Black Lives Matter undercase, but not Black Lives Matter uppercase. Like, I don't believe in like the individual institution or the movement that wants to abolish the nuclear family and fucking, you know, whatever, Green New Deal, $15 minimum wage, whatever. But I do believe that like the system's fucked up and it treats black people poorly. We need to address it. And even as a very staunch conservative, I am ashamed that my country has fucked over black people for so long. And I'm like, dude, if like a super right-wing conservative is saying that shit, you might not get everything you want, but there's fertile political ground for actual reform and actual progress. And this is what I don't like about ideologues, and this is why I feel like this is my role in the public arena of internet political debate or whatever, is like finding like the rational areas of compromise, because I am probably temperamentally liberal, but I was raised as a conservative, and there really is some stuff that we could focus on that would really make the world a better place. And I'm upset that like politics just keeps devolving into this shit show of like moral indignation and self-righteousness without any actual political productivity. And I feel like everybody understands the problem, that we're ruled by an upper class that divides and conquers by splitting us along like economic and social issues, and then failing to provide us the solutions to the problems that they're constantly beating us over the head about. Like, we need to beat that. We need to beat that as a country. We need to talk about this shit.
So I became a political doomer, essentially. Like, I was very nihilistic about politics, you could say, as I reached like the end of my 4-year degree. And even so, I still was involved locally in politics. I went to, central committee meetings. I went to like political events. I tried to do things and build coalitions with people, talk to people, avoid the things I didn't want to do. Like, I wouldn't ever, people looked at me weird when I wouldn't go to like environmental group meetings, or like they're like, I see you at everything. Why don't you go to the NARAL pro-choice stuff? Just like keeping my mouth shut, like trying not to say anything that would tip them off. But they like, I was still so much a doomer. I had to do that because it felt like if I wasn't, then all of the things that I had bothered learning or bothered looking into or bothered caring about didn't really matter until, this weird Asian dude named Andrew Yang came on the scene, especially early Andrew Yang. He kind of became more politician-y-esque in my eyes as the campaign neared its end, but that's okay. I kind of get why that happened. But the guy spoke of, listen, there's problems here. This seems like a reasonable solution that we could just agree on. Like, I can go talk to conservatives and pitch this idea to them, and I can go to talk to liberals or leftists or whatever and pitch this idea to them. And it seems like we can all agree on this because we recognize there's a problem. Here's a solution. Let's do it. Let's solve the problem. Problem-solving politics, essentially. And I like fell in love with that. Like, that was like, this was the hopium that I needed in my soul to make me not feel so depressed.
And then he got bought and co-opted, and now he's a CNN fucking talking head.
Of course. As is the path for all.
And he makes the mistake of saying something true every now and then, where like all the pundits are like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" And like he's like,
"Hey, you're not supposed to say this on live TV."
Oh no, that sounded like bipartisanship. That sounded like productive dialogue. You get the fuck out of here with that shit, sir.
Did you just insult the Queen, Nancy Pelosi? Excuse me, didn't you know the Heavenly Father ordained her?
Christ, dude, like Christ, like that. And that's I don't know. Like I think the reason why I have hopium is because I am a believer in incremental change. Marijuana wasn't even on the radar when I was born as far as like decriminalization. Now it seems like the entire country is on board with it. 2010, gay marriage was like, I think it got voted down in California. California, it didn't even pass in California in 2010. Now it's federally recognized as controversial and might get struck down, but most people don't give a fuck. Like, the average person doesn't give a fuck. I'm trying to think about maybe climate change. You now have the right wing saying like climate change is real. We just don't know how serious it is. That's still progress. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, compared to the snowball in Congress, like
Right.
climate change isn't real type stuff. Yeah.
Right. So like that's for me. It's like Americans want everything to happen in a 4-year time period. It's just not going to. It's a multi-generational project, and that's what.
Even if you did, I think people really need to hear this. Even if you did elect somebody like AOC or Bernie Sanders, I hate to put a damper on your good mood if that like magically did happen. Those 4 years probably still would be very unproductive.
Yeah, well, and that's what I was thinking about a Bernie Sanders presidency is he'd probably be a lame duck because he wouldn't get that much through. But the point being that like if by 2065, like the 200 years after the Civil War, we haven't made significant racial progress, I will see that as a failure. And I think even people 1965 to today would admit that there's been like significant racial progress. Maybe not enough, and we have a lot of work to do. But talk to somebody who was born in 1940 versus somebody born in the 2000s. It's going to be not night and day, but there's going to be a significant amount of progress. So that's kind of where like what is it? A society grows great when a man plants a tree whose shade, like an old man plants a tree
that he'll never sit under.
We have to have that attitude of like these conversations are worthwhile, politics is worthwhile, we have to think long term, we have to think about our kids, our grandkids, and all that kind of shit, which is why I hate antinatalists. So, like, I have a kid, I'm advocating for him.
If you're not going to have kids, there's really no reason to improve anything. There is no reason actually. There's a dystopian sci-fi book that I remember reading as a kid that kind of cemented this idea in my head. But they had like this ritual of like tricking people into thinking that they were going to be like the settlers of a new planet, and they were on this spaceship, and they were always on their way, and then they would like kill off people eventually when they got too old to make sure they didn't tell their descendants about the fact that they were told, that it was going to be delayed by another 20 years. And so they would encourage everyone to get pregnant right as like they were about to find out that they weren't going to be the generation to make it to the new planet, so that they had something to live for, so they could be like, oh, your kids are going to be the ones to make it there. Right. The premise is 1000% correct. You have nothing if not your descendants and the people that you're building a better world for. So why are you so against building a new generation? I don't know. Crazy to me.
Well, it's because it turns out Nick Fuentes was 100% right, and we're being manipulated to eat bugs and live in the igloos. And we should. It turns out that the solution isn't actual human technological progress or caring about human beings or improving society. It's racial tribalism, the solution that we've never considered before.
It's just having other white people around me.
Right.
That's weird because
that's
I had a lot of white
it.
people around me.
Yeah,
a lot of white people around me growing up, and they were still dicks to me because I wasn't Mormon. So
yeah,
kind of interesting. Huh.
Yeah. You just need more Europeans, and then all of these other problems will just snap into line. So.
And then the European Mormons will be more okay with the European Catholics, or like.
Yeah. We're not going to re-divide ourselves up along new things to be bigoted against each other. We're just going to stop. We're just going to love each other.
That makes perfect sense.
Right.
It was the black people that didn't live in my town who were causing those Mormons to be mean to me.
Yeah. White unity. As soon as we get rid of everybody who doesn't think, look, or act like us, we will all be unified and love each other, and all of societal's ills will go away.
And we'll walk down the street, and every time we see another white person, we'll just be like, "Hey, how's it going?"
I was gonna do this.
Hi. Yeah, we're all gonna wait.
Fuck! And again, I also have distant right people. Like, dude, that's not on me, bro. That's you. Like this is the messaging that your leader is giving me, which is basically that hey, racial tribalism is the way to solve society's problems, and it's bullshit. It's bullshit.
As soon as America was European, Nick Fuentes would rail against the people who weren't Catholic. As soon as everyone was Catholic, he'd make sure that all of the transgendered and gay people were gone. And as soon as that happened, then they'd work on making sure women weren't worn niqabs or something and couldn't drive. I don't fucking know. Like,
No, dude, straight up, and like that's I don't know, man. That's a weird thing about being in the middle and trying to be centristy and understand everybody and steel man their perspectives or whatever. Like, obviously, we've done some straw man and weak man arguments tonight, but at the same time, like, it's frustrating because like somebody can have like a really good fix for descriptive reality, and their prescriptive solutions can just be bullshit. But because their diagnosis is so good, they'll garner a following just off the diagnosis, and then those people will be on hook, line, and sinker for the solution. And that's what's really frustrating to me is like, I wish people like maintain their sense of like critical thinking, not just for the descriptive portion, but also for the prescriptive portion. And it seems like the more vague thought leaders and political activists are, the better off they are, because you can't criticize their prescriptions if they're vague.
you have to. I mean, well, then their audience just infers whatever the answer is, right? And they can make more money that way. It's probably one of the perverse incentives of monetization of the online space.
Yeah, but I mean, like I'm hoping to profit from that, so don't knock it too hard.
True, yeah. I'm just people have come into my chat, man, and they'll accuse me of being a grifter, and like for conservatives and for the left, they'll say I'm both, and I'm like, why would I ever? Why?
Why would I pick my position?
I pissed off everyone. Like, if I was gonna grift, I would just be like Lecture Fan or like Maj. Like, I would just say the things that I knew people wanted to hear and never say the shit that would make them mad.
I'm in the hole right now, guys. I dropped money on the microphone and the computer and the internet connection and the connectors and like all that. I haven't made a dime off of this shit. So far,
people get super angry at me. Like, I say the wrong thing and I lose 10 subscribers. Like, that's just the truth.
Yeah, but you know what? I take a small amount of joy in that, and I'm actually really looking forward to posting this, because it's like, dude, if you're, oh man, like this actually, you just got me a little excited for this. If you only hear what you want to hear, and if you only want your YouTube personalities or your media personalities or whatever to repeat back what you want to hear, get the fuck out. Like unsubscribe, get the fuck off of my channel. I'm not your messiah. I'm not your martyr. I'm not your leader. And on top of that, let me tell you, the people who you think are your messiah, your martyr, your leader, they are fucking human. They are dickheads with microphones on the internet, sitting in their fucking rooms screaming into the void. Like, and that goes for politicians too. Politicians are not your fucking savior. They are not your messiah. They are not the people who are going to save you from yourself. You have to save you from yourself. So stop looking on the external, start looking at the internal. And that's not to say that we shouldn't have like conversations about politics or where we are or how to improve society or anything like that. But if you're looking at some fucking asshole who's like under the age of 40 with a fucking, webcam and a mic to save you from yourself, it's not going to happen. It's not going to fucking happen. You're going to wake up tomorrow. You're going to go to the job that you hate. You're going to work the 8 hours that you don't want to fucking work. You're going to barely pay your fucking bills. You're going to fucking smoke a little bit of pot, play a little bit of video games, and you're going to live in the same house or the same apartment that you've lived in fucking 8 or 9 hours before. That's what's going to happen. And I'm not saying that to be fucking doomer, but I am saying that this is entertainment. This is political discussion. This is like trying to think about thinking and think about politics. But this is not going to fundamentally change the world. It's just going to be a snowflake that's a part of an avalanche of like social transformation in the world getting on. So I don't know, man. Like don't have a messiah complex with online figures, please, for the love of God.
And this is why I'm in the future, once I get things are more stable and coronavirus isn't such a big deal. One of the things that I want to do is fundraise to go and I want to buy the satellite equipment and go out and just go to these really I want to go to different cities and go to small towns and go all over the country and just explore and talk to random people, because I feel like part of the biggest thing that's missing from online discourse and from quote unquote entertainment on the internet, especially in the political realm, is that we dehumanize each other so much. Like, we don't understand that every single person is just another human being, and that the reason that they're the way that they are is because of their life circumstances, which are generally pretty normal. That's what I would like to do, is just unironically just approach people randomly on the street of their small town or their city or downtown or whatever, and just talk to them about their life.
Yeah.
Shoot the shit.
And that's my thing too. So like a lot of people want they want the addictiveness, they want the memes, they want the they want the "don't make me suck your dick" Vosh, which is a great clip. Like that's a fucking phenomenal clip. I'll probably still be laughing about it 6 months from now. But at the same time, like that this is fucking McDonald's for your brain. You know what I'm saying? Like this is McDonald's for your spirit. It's McDonald's for your politics. And I love giving you McDonald's, like fucking having debates, talking about shit, like all that kind of stuff. But like you got to eat some steak, you got to eat some broccoli, you got to eat some vegetables. The same way that you consume food on a day-to-day basis, you need to consume stuff for your soul and for your brain. And if you keep constantly fucking doomer pilling yourself, or if you have that like messiah complex or something like that, or the inability to explore nuance, or the inability to explore new ideas, like dude, you're just hurting yourself. Like you're hurting yourself, and you're making the world a worse place. And that's kind of why I'm hoping that some lefties and some dissident right people who fucking hate watch me made it to this segment where I can still say, I can still imply you're a piece of shit, but do it in a really tactful way. And also to say this, I am a piece of shit. Okay, I have sins. I have sinned in the eyes of the deistic God and probably the theistic God. I'm not a perfect person. I've done rough things in my life, but I also learned from those things, and that's what I want for other people, especially younger people too, especially Zoomers. Man, you guys are fucking psychos. I mean, every teenage group is psychos, but Zoomers are interesting.
Even just younger Zoomers, man, they confuse the hell out of me. I can't. Like I was doing political organizing stuff, and I was getting 18, 17, 19-year-old kids to come do stuff with me, and they're just like a different animal. Like I could still talk to them. Yeah. Thank God, but like they're like obsessed with TikTok and the internet, and I'm just like, you guys ever just like actually the like, do you ever put your phone down meme? Like it's actually relevant. Like they hold it in their hand, even like they're looking at their phone while they're talking to you type stuff, like crazy.
Yeah. Oh shit! Knocked my headphones out. Yeah, and like every just to make everybody feel better about that, can you talk a little bit?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Socrates, like I forget the exact quote, but Socrates was like, the young generation, they care not for like exercise. They care not for exercising their brains. They're self-interested. They don't respect the gods or respect the old people or anything like that. They're a bunch of useless pieces of shit. So if Socrates said that like 2,400 years ago or whatever, chances are like the Zoomers are not going to single-handedly doom the planet. So like wet ass pussy came out last year, and I basically wanted to fucking kill myself because I'm a boomer, and like even that offended my delicate sensibilities. When I was growing up, I'm pretty sure Ludacris wrote a song about like licking women from their head to their toe, and like there was some pretty graphic shit in my generation, and we've kind of survived. So I think I don't think wet ass pussy or whatever that guy walking around in a dress, I don't think it's going to destroy us. It might not be my cup of tea, but I don't think it's going to fundamentally destroy our society, or at least I hope not.
I don't think so either. I think we'll be okay. Listen, I remember. Okay, WAP coming out was funny because I had a bunch of Zoomer friends and my girlfriend and stuff. We all listened to the song. We were like, nobody thinks this is good, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, no, not at all. It's like, oh, okay, good. So we all agree. So then why is it popular? It's because it's provocative. That's the entire point.
Yeah.
Nicki Minaj did not write that song because she was like, oh, everyone's going to love this song about wet-ass pussies. No.
Yeah.
She wrote it because she knew she would get a lot of money from it, guys.
Dude, that macaroni in a pot line was like, oh, gross. Like I could hear the sound. It was like, oh, God, that's too graphic for me. And I was brought up with like Bloodhound Gang, like singing about like porn star titties and shit. Like my fucking sensibilities are offended. And what was it? Oh, God, there was one other. Okay. So I'm gonna bring up another moment of offense. Billie Eilish should not be talking about fucking my dad. That is so weird. Like don't, Billie Eilish, don't talk about my father like that, you piece of shit.
I always thought that lyric was weird. Yeah.
Yeah, like don't try to suck my dad's dick, Billie Eilish. That is gross and weird. He's a 60-year-old man. He has been happily married for 30 years. You leave that man alone.
okay. I don't think Billie Eilish wants anybody to do that. So
Yeah.
again, this may just be a product of provocative things selling.
Yeah, but it's the lizard people and the globalists who are propagating niceness.
It's them with the 3 parentheses. They're just controlling everything.
Yeah.
In fact, they literally wrote "wet ass pussy." They wrote that entire.
And not because people like provocative, sexual, offensive entertainment. It's to slowly degrade Western society, so we ultimately commit hara-kiri, and then the Chinese take us over. That's why.
And that's why they actually play. If you listen very closely on all television, they actually play "wet ass pussy" at 1% volume on every TV show.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Just saying.
I hadn't heard that one before, but it's fucking solid.
Well, it's just like I don't know.
Good memes. Good memes. Excited to be canceled for this video. Very excited.
Well, that's what happens when you're trying to expose them.
Yeah, right. They come after you for talking about wet ass pussy being played at a low volume in the back of all media.
It's like the person who commented on one of my videos recently that was on China, and they're like, YouTube is run by the Chinese Communist Party. You better back up all your videos before it's too late.
Yeah. They don't give a fuck about me, bro. I'm small potatoes.
I got 800 subs. I don't think
I'll let you know. I'll let you know when I get the lizard people money. When I get the either the shekels from Mossad or like the adrenochrome from the lizard people or
cheap.
Some gold bars from the deep state or some shit like that. I'll let you know.
Yeah.
I'll just be like,
I just want to be clear to whoever's ruling the world and ruling the universe. I am extremely cheap. $100,000, I will shill for you the rest of my life. Okay, I just initial $100,000 investment. You owe me for the rest of my life.
Look, did you know that adrenochrome was good for the environment?
That's what they grow trees with, actually.
Yeah. Turns out that sacrificing babies to Moloch is actually really good for the environment.
It is, yeah. It reduces carbon emissions.
Oh my god, fuck. Oh shit, I feel guilty. I have a child in the other room. But still, funny memes. And I used to be a way more fucked up person than I am right now. Jesus Christ. Like, if people thought I was like rude or crass or had a potty mouth now, it's like you should have seen me when I was 19. Jesus. But yeah, well, I am toasting up because of the lighting setup in here, and my neck is killing me. And we've been going for about an hour and 11 minutes, 99% of which was phenomenal memes. So do you have do you have any last topics that you want to cover? Any concepts that you want to get out there? They call them saved rounds in the military. You got any saved rounds, things you want to throw out there into the ether?
I suppose that I will leave the audience with this, and that's if you really believe in some sort of political change or political ideology, or you full-heartedly think that something if something was changed in society in a certain way, and that would make the world a better place, and subsequently your life and other people's lives better that you care about, then go do something. And I don't mean go on the internet and write a comment on a YouTube video, which you could do right now. You could yell at me in the comment section, but instead go to a political organizing meeting, go to a Republican Party meeting, go to a Democratic Party meeting, go to a political organizing event, I get a beer with somebody, go to a Zoom meeting. I don't care what it is. Just get your toes in the water to advocacy for the things that you care about. And even if you aren't the best person in the world, you aren't the best advocate, or you have all of these different problems in your life, I guarantee you, just by setting yourself in a direction, setting yourself towards a target, and trying to make the world a better place, you will subsequently make yourself a better person and the people around you better people, because you'll be improving yourself in a way. So just go do something. Yeah, just go do something.
That was very Jordan Peterson of you. Nice. No, that was awesome. Well, no, and you wanna shout out? I know you said that you already do Twitch and YouTube, but do you have any like specific information? And you can send me the specific information as well, so I can post it in the description. But you want to shout anything out?
Just my Twitch and my YouTube are Endernax. I have both the custom URLs, so it's literally just Endernax. And then with my Twitter, it's just Endernax _. That's all. That's all I got.
So ENDERNAX, I believe. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. Well, dude, I'll talk to you for a minute after we hang up, but I'm gonna stop recording for now. Thank you guys for watching. I sincerely appreciate you. The one lesson that I want you to pull away from this is we are assholes with microphones. Do not trust us to save you from whatever's going on. And you know, basically, like we love you. We care about you. We want you to do well. We want your life to be improved. We want to inform you and get you more information, but we can't save you from yourself. And you need to take care of yourself, and you need to prioritize yourself and go after a better life. So like, share, subscribe, dislike all that YouTube nonsense, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.